Welcome, everybody, to this live edition of Tally Book Troubleshooting. I'm your host, Keith Stelter. And as always, Tally Book Troubleshooting is brought to you by the guys at Arc Energy. We process your energy, manufacture new, recondition, rental, service. We got you covered. Tally Book Troubleshooting, bringing you stories of ingenuity in the oil field, trying to demonstrate, a little bit of good positivity for our industry, one story at a time. Got a great show for you today. I actually have a few, guys that I've been wanting to talk to for a little bit and pick their brain on a couple subjects. I'll try and keep it short and brief. We're here about, short little stories that, demonstrates their problem solving ability here in the oil field. We're shooting from the hip, hoping to hit the target of entertaining you today. And without too much further ado, I'm going to bring up my first guest. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to try and coordinate a few little banners and other little doodads I got here. Mr. Neil Turlock, let's see if I can make this work. There we go. Introduction underneath there. I think it's working. Neil, so glad to have you on the show. Appreciate you making the time.
Thanks. Yeah. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Man, so everyone might not know, but you're up working in Michigan, correct?
The Michigan Basin, loud and proud.
And, when I think the oil industry in, the U.S., first basin that pops up is not up in Michigan. How did you find yourself up there, and what's working up there kind of like?
I was born in Wisconsin, and I was moved to Michigan when I was like 3 months old. So it's all I really know. And moving around and being in the state, you just see pump jacks, and I got inherently curious as a child. I went to the Permian. Keith and we met in the Permian, and I mudlogged after getting my bachelor's degree, and then I mudlogged after getting my master's degree, all throughout the Permian Basin. And I always wanted to work the Michigan Basin and be in Michigan and be in the industry, but it's a little prohibitive cost-wise. State-wise, regulatory is more tough. It's probably on the regulation levels as like in New York or California, so it's not the easiest.
Difficult to say the least, I imagine. And how is getting services up there? I imagine the competition up there isn't. I don't think there's probably 100 vendors for every service, is there?
No. Services are limited. There's a few pump shops around. It's all mostly centralized. Everyone refers to it as a mitten. It's the mitten state. And central is Mount Pleasant, so you have a lot of service companies that are just centralized in the basin. But all the big oil comes from up north here. So you got a Kalkaska, which is like the Odessa of the north, I like to say. But outside of Kalkaska, Mount Pleasant, and Gaylord, there's not a lot out there. So it
sounds almost a little bit like an international type gig where, you got to really have your planning and, get all your ducks in a row, as they say.
Just getting wells drilled. So right now there's 4 rigs active. One is just primarily working for utility companies. And then there's 3 that are doing, the exploration production. And they're lined up for a year. So, making a hole in the ground, turning right, there's companies passing the rig back and forth, and they have to coordinate. So the competition's coordinating with each other to get rigs to drill their prospects.
Sounds a completely different world from down here in the Permian. Well, it's Tally Book Troubleshooting. It's about problems. What problem? What ingenious solution to what terrible problem do we have from you today? What was the issue?
Well, my big thing in Michigan right now is just putting together leases. I've got a few prospects that I'm trying to put together, and in doing so, as Transcendence Energy is, we've got contractors who work, 1099, and the people who I work with are independent consultants. So when it comes to doing the drilling and the reservoir engineering, I say, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Here's the project, please help. And, I'm lucky Jordan and Tyler have come in and been willing to do a lot. And this guy named Mark Amell, who runs a service company, is a pumper. He's an engineer. I mean, he can tell you to the foot pounds what to torque stuff. He's not just a 20-year pumper that wrenches on it till it's wrenched in and walks away. He knows within very fine detail. So anyway, I've had to learn to leave money on the table and to pay to get things done, because I've been out of school for 2.5 years now. And they don't teach you in geology school how to do land work, or where to find out how to get a lease, or if the land's already been leased, how to farm in and do all that other stuff, all of which costs money. And what inside of me says, don't spend money. But at some point in time, I mean, in the industry, when you're stepping over $1,000 to save $100, like, I could be putting $1,000 of equity into my life, for $100. And for me, $100 might be $1 million to like ExxonMobil, but like at Transcendence Energy, I don't have the deep pockets as an international oil.
Was the slowdown of 2020 and the lower prices, did that accelerate the learning curve last year?
Oh my God, it set it on fire. Yeah, that was the wick that got everything started. That's what centralized the ability for me to come in and, create an operating company in the state of Michigan. Without that, it was the great equalizer. It was the reset button that everyone says. I'm the direct result of, this great reset, because without that, just plummet when everyone's at the bottom, when we're all sitting there drowning, then there's people like me that started to swim. So I got in the deep end with everyone else and said, here's my shot, here's my chance. And, the great influencer himself, David Ramsden Wood, he threw out his number one day, and I called him on LinkedIn. Anybody who needs to talk, call me. And I'm like, all right, I got nothing else going on. And he said, if there's a time you wanted to start a business, whether it be, opening a restaurant or starting an oil company. And I was like, well, I can cook, but there's no reason why I should open a restaurant.
For sure, man. It definitely was a scary time for everybody, right? And even myself, I found, I couldn't wait for the phone to ring. So I had to, nobody was looking for operations guys in 2020. They were looking for people who were willing to think outside the box. So
talk about international.
Yeah.
Where you grew up in Canada, eh?
I try not, I'm American now. I have a nice certificate that says so. I did my pledges and stuff. So I'm
You've been out to the Middle East?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's,
you've been around the world.
The international experience makes you appreciate how good we have it here, and how, forgiving of mistakes. Like if you forget something on location, you just get a hot shot. You forget something on location, odds are, in the Middle East, you don't have it, and it's 6 months to get it. So it's a major, you really learn to plan to, cover all your bases when you're over there. So, so learning curve, huge there. I'm not going to keep you too long on here. I know you're a busy guy. There is one other thing I was going to ask you about. Steve Harris, was talking about bringing up some kind of rumor about September 1st. You're the guy to talk to about September 1st, opening day. What was he meaning by that?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. What do you got flying around free range around your property right now? What?
Oh, we got a cockatiel somewhere flying out. I don't know where she is, but a beautiful rosy-cheeked cockatiel straight from Australia.
Perfect. The hunters away on September 1st.
Yeah. Let me get my 12 gauge out, pop her down. Full choke, 30-inch barrel, 3-inch mag. There wouldn't be enough left for a cockatiel chicken nugget.
Perfect, sir. Well, I really appreciate your time coming down and doing this, or coming down, I guess, online, especially with kind of the new COVID resurgence, we're all going to kind of have to accept that some of these online programs are, I think, here to stay. Wouldn't you agree?
It opens the world and it brings it together. I mean, it's made it smaller. As conveniently inconvenient, it's nice. I mean, here we are.
Yes.
I don't really want to operate in Texas. I wouldn't mind taking some consulting work in Texas.
Throwing that out there, anybody who's watching. Perfect.
Yeah, being down there and having a big company and stuff. I mean, between the Appalachian, Illinois, and Michigan basin, you know, if I were to expand, it would be in the Williston Basin, North Dakota. But, you know, it's just, we're able to bring people together now that wouldn't be able to. So I like it.
Awesome, man. Well, really appreciate you doing this. You have a terrific day, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks. Yeah, you too.
Excellent. Now, big thanks to Neil for doing that. Really appreciate his time. My next guest is, I've been told is a great, terrific storyteller. He is here at Arc Energy, and I get told all the time what an amazing storyteller he is. I have kind of thrown it. Maybe I'm throwing him under the bus. Maybe he's prepared. Maybe he isn't prepared. I like to wing it just to see what'll happen and see if I get in trouble. It's better to ask for forgiveness later than really permission at the end of the day. And I would like to introduce Mr. Tom Gardner. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
Tom Gardner, CEO, Arc Energy. Sir, thank you so much. What?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can. Sorry, okay. I didn't get to you before we started, but it's coming through all shiny and clear. So how are things today? And are you in Utah today, or where do you find yourself today?
Yeah, I'm in Utah area today. Thanks, Keith. And also Neil had a great story. I was actually on here in the background. It was cool to hear about him. So I know he's off now, but thanks to Neil and Keith. I don't know who's been talking to you about my storytelling. Maybe I have a bunch of little kids, maybe it's them, but I can embellish the truth occasionally. But
that's perfect. You are going to do wonderful. That's what this show is all about. A little bit of embellishment, a little bit of a far-fetched tall tale to demonstrate, we're pretty smart guys here in the oil industry. So, what is the problem you were facing today, and how did you solve it?
Well, I mean, there's problems every day. And one thing, so Keith, you asked me, I think it was yesterday, about this, and I know about Tallybook because it reminds me that it's Tuesday. Every Tuesday you've been doing it. It's pretty awesome what you do, first of all. And it's awesome to work with Keith. If nobody knows him, get to know him a little bit better. I haven't gotten to know Keith as much as I'd like to. But problems come up all the time. And in my role at ARC, I may hear about a lot of them, but I only participate in some. And there's a couple key things I'd just like to share that are nuggets I've taken with me over time. And one of them is, when I was starting out my career in the oil and gas industry, my second company, I've really only worked for 3. My second company that I was with specialized in refining process. And it was my first opportunity to participate as a manager. And at one point we were trying to come up with, what are we doing? Who are we? And I had a tagline that was called, we try to find meaningful solutions to significant problems. And that may sound pretty simple, but I've adopted that as a mantra because oftentimes I find with all the problems out there, one thing that everybody has to do is determine, hey, what's the meaningful ones I need to focus on? I mean, we may spend time on non-meaningful ones, but we shouldn't spend too much time. But let's evaluate the meaningful ones and then find the significant problem, and then find a meaningful solution. So with that, at Delta Valve was my second company. It was founded on a unique problem-solving story, really. And I don't know, Keith, have you ever heard of Delta Valve?
The only Delta I know, which is a valve, is the ones you find in your bathroom. So
yeah, that's what a lot of people think of.
That's
Delta Valve is a small company. It got started around 2000-ish. And I started in the very beginning of the company. And its claim to fame was in refining. Have you heard of in a refinery? A lot of refineries still have a delayed coking process. It's a specific process for what we call bottom of the barrel oil. And that's like the heavy, thick stuff. No one has anything left to do with it. And the bottom of the barrel or the heavies, that a lot of times we'll put it in a pipe and we call it resid. We heat it up with a heater to about 900 degrees. And then it'll go through a batch process called coking. Delayed coking process. And that's where it's fed into a large drum and it's baked essentially for a number of hours, and you get off the final fumes you can. And then when you're done baking it, a water jet tool comes and cuts out, and you end up with a solid material called coke. And it's kind of like coal. There's a lot of different types, needle coke, other types of coke. But if you look at an aerial view of a refinery with a delayed coker, just look for like the dirtiest, darkest, grossest spot, and that's a delayed coker. And it's also the most hazardous area in a refinery. And the reason why is traditionally at the bottom of that huge coke drum, and those drums, they're the largest vessels usually in a refinery. It's a 72-inch flange, could be neck down to about a 60-inch flange. That flange, it used to be a manual process. Like once a day you'd come in and guys would come in and they'd undo all these bolts around this flange, pop it off to get the cutting process started. Well, if the drum was tarry, sticky, or whatever loose, it could evacuate immediately and kill everybody on the deck. It could burn people. It was
definitely a problem. Yes.
Super dangerous. And in the early 2000s, there's a few other people trying to innovate around this problem. It's a significant problem, right? And Delta Valve, its claim to fame, the primary product that they innovated or made was really just a slide gate valve that was built for really severe service, a 60-inch through bore slide gate valve. And so we slapped that thing on the bottom of a coke drum, and instead of having a manual process to swing away the flange, you could have an operator in a room, off the deck completely. And they hook a chute up, they call it discharge chute up to the bottom of it. And they press a button and the gate slides open and the drum is cut out and all the coke just falls through down into the coke pit. And now, even if it's tarry, whatever, nobody's hurt. Super clean, automates the process. It's like, why didn't we ever put a valve there? It's like kind of known technology. It sounds simple. It's not that simple, but that was a huge problem that changed a lot of people's lives and saved some lives. And it changed my life because we went from taking a product with a little thing and building a whole company based off of that. So I had a 5-year run at Delta Valve, which was tremendous, where in 2004 or 5, when I started, there was a small portion of refineries that had this coking valve. And if you go around today, around the world, I'd say at least 80% of them actually have this product in service at the bottom of their drum. So great, meaningful solution to a significant problem.
Usually takes somebody to say, why, why have we always done this, but why, right? There's so many times, like I've had a guest on, Janie Snelson, who asked, why are we rigging down the frac site every time to go fuel up? Why can't we bring the truck to us? And everyone's like, well, that's, how it's done. We can't fit the trucks on. It's like, why not get a longer hose? You know what I mean? It eventually, like you said, it sounds simple. Most of these solutions really are, but it gets, the hardest part is getting people to stop doing what they've always been doing, right? I think that's the biggest challenge is, well, it kind of worked over here this way, so if it's not broke, let's not fix it, when it should always be the goal to be better, right?
Yeah, and I think human nature, at least for me, whether it's business or a technological thing or just in the industry, I come from an engineering background. We're very solution oriented. We want to provide the solution. And I think a lot of times we don't stop and say, okay, let's understand this problem. And when we do that, we may see it differently. And we may not get a good solution. But a good example for me right now, Keith, that we deal with, hey, what's the problem we have today that's common in our industry, in our society. And one thing that and we may talk about this even at our company a little bit more, but a real dynamic that, and I don't want to give it any more voice than it has already, because it has everyone's ear. It's COVID. COVID, we're on a war against COVID. And I find the interesting thing in our society, and even in our company and in our conversations with my kids, with my family, it's so easy to get confused on the enemy of the war of COVID, because we think it's maybe that neighbor or that friend or that colleague that's wearing a mask, or that's not wearing a mask, or that's vaccinated, or that isn't vaccinated. The enemy, and the thing we forget, is actually a virus. It's a virus. It's not like we're all in this trying to figure it out, making decisions with our backgrounds, our know-how, trying to do the best. We got to live with the consequences. If you want to do certain things, you can't do other things, but we get confused on the problem. And that's where it's like, hey, guys, we're in this together. And the real enemy is actually this microscopic little virus. That's the enemy. It's not the guy or the one, or this post about, hey, is this right? No. We're just trying to figure it out. So I find that really, really interesting how easy it is to get focused on things that are actually not the problem.
Yes, sir. And, that could be, the case with so many other problems as well. Climate change, a few other things, and misinformation, the media, who's right or who's wrong. That's really not what it should be about. It should be coming together to, how do we all work together to the fact of just actually working together, whether one solution or the other. Let's just make sure we all still kind of are able to get along, right? And there's got to be a place where we can meet in the middle, and when we do disagree, where we can respect the other side's opinions, I think.
And a shout out today too. I mean, with this trouble stuff, we're lucky enough, one of our locations at ARC is in Louisiana, so we've been able to track and keep our ear to the ground on this recent hurricane. And luckily, we were really not affected that much. But our neighbors next door, there's a lot of people in some pain today. So prayers and thoughts go out to those in the Gulf that are affected by the hurricane. We hope that it subsides soon. But those are real problems for a lot of our people that they're dealing with right now, significant real ones. And so there's always something you can find, man, in ways that you can get in there and help out for sure.
Yep. And what goes around comes around. What you throw out there, generally comes back to. Especially, I've found the more I've tried to reach out and help people, the better things, life just is in general.
Unfortunately, you're right. I've been getting that come around too much. My youngest boy, who's a firecracker, man, my wife, I think, accidentally put him into karate yesterday, and he was karate chopping me last night. It was torture. He's 9 years old and brutal. I don't know why she thought of that, but that's the come around I was getting.
Well, now it's just an incentive to get in shape and, be able to defend yourself, sir. I really appreciate
out there that wants to karate chop me, know that it's already come around. My son is doing it for you.
Perfect. Well, sir, I know you got a few other places to be. I really appreciate you taking the time, telling the story, and look forward to the next time we chat.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
Have a great one.
Yeah, you too.
Well, everybody, one thing that's come along with this tally book troubleshooting is I get tally books. Like, people will real mail me tally book. Here's a great one, Oilfield Orphans. Here's a stack. Shout out to, Winter Mud has sent me. My boy Roy Strawn over in Intrepid. Jenny Wilson, Dixon, Tornado, and I can't forget Janie Snelson, Big E. A lot of tally books. So, I can troubleshoot a lot of problems over here. And a man who knows quite a bit about troubleshooting problems and being in the thick of things, especially in the, the podcasting live stream world, is my next guest. man who, well, I look up to. I look up to a lot. Bring him on here. You may recognize him, Mr. J.P. Warren. I'm going to call you the CEO of Connection Crew. Is that an accurate statement, JP?
Yeah, I think that was one of the toughest parts about starting a company. Is like, what do you call yourself? Like having like, it's like my own company, so it's like, what do you call yourself? Like without sounding pompous. So I just went with principal. Call me whatever you want. I really don't care. I've been called a lot.
Principal, is that what you prefer? You founder, principal?
I'm not your principal. I'm your principal. Okay, that's kind of that's something to go to. So I love what we're coming on right now. We're talking about fighting kids. Like I love great segue because I'm teaching my daughter a little karate through YouTube, and I'm holding up like a sleeping bag so she can practice her punches and kicks. And she's missed a couple times and landed some pretty good power shots on me. So I think that should be the next one. Tally Book Tuesdays is how to take on your 8-year-old and win.
Or your 60-pound 4-year-old. That's what I'm dealing with. A little out of control, and daddy can take as many punches or whatever he can throw at me, and it's like all depends on where you're punching, daddy. Sometimes in the back it kind of feels pretty good, actually. But you know what? I see in the background here there is another surprise guest that I want to bring in here to help close out the show, JP, if you're open to it.
Yeah, it's your show, man. You show me.
Perfect. I'm gonna see if I can add this to the stream. I am a little bit of a junior. Mr. Lord Bailey Midkiff.
Morning. Good morning. What's happening?
Sir, how did you get the title of Lord?
So I'm sitting having drinks at a restaurant called Fire Rock in Casper, Wyoming with a customer. And he's on Facebook, and them ads pop up, and he's like, dude, I should do this. I'm like, no, I should do it. He's like, you gonna do it? So in the matter as he's talking, I don't tell him I did it. And I bought this spot in Scotland so that I could claim it. And I thought, well, I have to change my name if we're gonna go with this.
So you're legitimately a actual Lord then?
I bought a little tiny piece in Scotland. Yeah, I got the certificate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Have you ever met the man who's next to me in the live stream, Mr. J.P. Warren? JP, have you ever met Lord Bailey Midkiff?
Have we?
I don't think we have. I mean, we've crossed paths, but we've never shook hands and had coffee.
Oilfield small, you always cross paths. So, hey, as a Lord, like, do you like chime in? Like when people are talking about the crown, you're like, actually, that's not really how it's like. I'm a Lord. I know. Like I would drop all the time.
So once that started, of course, it was like a ripple effect, so to speak. So, I started looking at other stuff, and then, so my dad was a driller for over 30 years, Exeter Kaza Enzyme, old school. And when I was in school, about, I would say 15 years old, I asked him, I said, what's our ethnicities? Are, besides Caucasian, what are we? He just said, you're white. And that was the extent of it. I never knew. So I looked, and we came from England, and we have a stamp, and then somebody did ancestry. So there's a lot into it. I was like, well, heck, maybe I didn't have to buy the piece of land. Maybe I just need to go have lunch with my forefathers, and call this a day.
Well, now you got that proof. Now you got that actual certificate where you can actually drop that in any casual conversation. That's what I like. Don't worry about CEO of Connection Crew. You're a Lord. I think that trumps everyone here. Sir.
No, it's funny.
Well, gentlemen, it's Tally Book Troubleshooting. It's about oilfield stories. We got Lord Bailey Midkiff's story on how he became a Lord. What else can we share with the community to show, we're fun-loving guys? I think that's one demonstration of it. What, JP, what extent do you think the oil field has to go to do a better job of demonstrating that, we are people too? We're not these monsters sometimes the media makes us out to be.
I think honestly, it's what we're doing. And, part of the podcast that I do, Energy Crew, is like, it's obviously focused on you know what I mean? But I also have people throughout our community, such as Brittany Franklin with Sky High for Kids. I have Nicole Gauthier, who does this Wicked Holdings that finds safe homes for, women and children in abused relationships. So I think it's not just talking to people in our community being like, oh yeah, people need fossil fuels, drill baby drill, la la la, doing all that, because that's obvious. We're preaching to convert it. I think it's up to us to continue finding creative ways to kind of meet our neighbor, talk to people, engage with people, and people that don't understand that, like, oh, fossil fuels is bad and ruining the earth, and I want to go hop in my electric vehicle that's not made of any fossil fuel. It's having conversations and not really calling them stupid or ignorant. It's just kind of shedding a light on, like, hey, look, oil and gas industry isn't against renewables. However, we're against the illogical, non-rational thought that we can just switch over tomorrow. So I think it's just more of a conversation to have, and not just within our industry, but it's also people outside of our industry. So, it's just connecting with others and just telling stories. I mean, the more we can expose ourselves, and the fact that we're using technology, the fact that we're using video podcasts, and Keith, you're going live. I mean, it's all this stuff. Eventually, hopefully, it starts bleeding out. And actually, I'm going to show y'all. I don't know if y'all can see this, but this is actually pretty cute. This is part of it. Talking to our children. I don't have royalty children, Lord, like you might, but I just have a regular peasant child because we're peasants. But this morning I'm driving my daughter to school, and I got this little drill bit keychain, and she's like, "Daddy, can I have that drill bit key?" And she knew I was blown away. She's like, she knew what it was, and she wanted it for her backpack. So I don't know if you can see this. I'll post a picture of it, but. Let's see if it's focused.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. Oh, there we come. Yeah.
Holding that, and then she dropped it on her Sonic backpack right there.
That's cool.
So now she can go to school, hey, and tell all those kids, hey, let me talk to you about oil and gas. Let me talk to you about hydrocarbons and we're changing it to organic earth energy. Let me talk to you about organic earth energy.
Ooh, so I like the sound of that.
So I think it's just talking to people and not getting so worked up, and just as you spoke before, not disagreeing. It's more just having a collaborative conversation with people.
Right. There's probably tons of roughnecks out there that are just standing there, watching this on a cell phone this morning going, heck, I've been trying to get one of those keychains for years. Those things are worth gold.
Oh, dude, I told everyone I've had that keychain for like 15 years. So
I still have some in bags, you don't even put them on your keychain because you don't want to lose them.
You got to get them out there. That's why we're doing a bad job of advertising. We're keeping our best advertisements in bags somewhere in a room. Bailey, do you what else do you think we should be doing as an industry besides, like I said, this, or like JP said, this podcast, these kind of good, PR little demonstrations, putting out live streams. What else do you think we should be doing?
I think a big thing that's never pointed out is, we are a small community, no matter how much we grow and change. We always talk about that, but we don't do very well about reaching outside of that to inform people. These podcasts, these events are great, but they're all oil and gas based. So we're not exactly reaching out to the other groups to get them involved. As simple as, every county, every state has miscellaneous things. They have business after hours. They have, this event. They have children that, it's great to write a check and do a donation, but getting more involved outside of just what we do as an industry as a whole is probably where we fail. I think we're doing great at growing internally and informing people, but in our group, not outside of that group. And I think
I agree 100%. One of the guests I actually had tried to get on the show here was a random chance encounter with a college baseball player over on the East Coast, 18-year-old kid. And I was going to try and get him on. It just didn't work out with the schedule. He had classes. And I was going to get him, he's a prospect being looked after by, a few different teams. So it kind of, he had a little bit of a story behind him. And I was going to ask him what he knew about oil and gas. And, right off the bat, when we were discussing, he's like, well, I don't want to come on an oil and gas show. I don't know anything about the industry. And I'm like, exactly. So,
perfect.
And I was hoping that, what, at least his feelings, what you have to have an opinion one way or the other. And to hopefully, outreaches like that, I encourage anybody out there, especially your immediate family. You should does all your immediate family, the people that you can speak to at any point, do they know about oil and gas? Now, Bailey, you said, your dad was a longtime driller.
Yeah.
But maybe is everybody else connected there aware? Like, I think one thing we don't do as an industry well is, tell the people in our backyard. Like, I know my mother-in-law doesn't know a whole lot about it. I try every time I talk to her, I tell her a little bit more. And she's on the side of oil and gas after, been married to my wife for, 13 years here. So it's hopefully everybody takes the opportunity to talk to the people closest to them.
Another huge opportunity that the oil and gas industry has not capitalized on is we're always reactive. Well, I'm not going to give that speech, all that stuff. But what I'm saying is right now, I mean, look, we all know we're reactive. I'm not going to do that stuff. But what I'm saying is that currently right now, the oil and gas industry in the past 18 months, whatever you want to call it, has done a tremendous job. The oilfield service side has done a tremendous job highlighting the personality and the people, right? They're communicating what they're doing. And it's not like a structured marketing, we need to communicate this to make us look a certain way. It's genuine. It's authentic. And you're seeing that. You're seeing that on a lot of the service side. But here's the deal. That guy in the East Coast, right? When he thinks of oil and gas industry, he's not thinking of a service company. He's thinking of an operator. He's thinking of the face of our industry, which is operators. So a huge opportunity that we haven't capitalized on is let's the operators need to write our narrative. And I've spoken about this before. I wrote a blog article about that before. But the operators need to do a better job of telling a story, not just communicating data. We've taken down 300 tons of carbon footprint. I don't even know what that means. I can't conceptualize that. That's data. So I think the operators need to kind of take more of an active role and probably be more proactive on saying, okay, well, look, we are the face of the industry. We need to kind of humanize our industry. And the best way to do that is to tell a story, bring the people to the front of it. Don't just be this, you can't talk to any media or podcasts or anything like that. We need to have the operators be writing our narrative. Otherwise, we're always in this defense mode, defending the narrative that's been written for us. So we have a chance to be offensive versus defensive.
You nailed it.
And with the new, always in the past, the old school operator, the guys in charge of it, they didn't like media. They didn't want to keep the attention because they didn't want to draw any negative attention to themselves. But there's definitely been a changing of the guard over the last few years. How come you think with this new school of management, they're still, hesitant to go out there and tell those stories?
I think
Lord, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think, and it's something that's got to be honest. Some of that isn't environmentally and politically correct. We got to be honest about that. We know that, and I can say that, so you were saying, I don't know my whole family. So my dad, both his brothers and my granddad, they all were drillers in the oil field. They didn't do anything else. They were that was their bread and butter. And that's all they ever did. And some of the stories they have, I can't tell. I mean, that's just an honest fact. But we have grown as an industry so much. I think that's why we're more vocal and proud of it, because it has changed drastically. Just from the safety environment, the culture in general is 180. So we should be proud of that and we should express it. So it's kind of hard to express some of those older things that we probably don't want to admit happened, But I mean, lesson learned.
Yeah, but there's been lots of industries that have had rough histories where, totally changed it around. So I don't know. I think there needs to be an opening up. I think, JP, you do a great job. You have lots of operators come on and start talking and telling stories now. So I think
that's the problem, Keith. I mean, getting operators on the show, there's some. It depends the size of the company or what company it is. There's some. I mean, for example, some of the larger companies, I'm not going to name names, they have, according to them and according to our industry, some of the best and brightest minds there. So why not give them the chance to come on an industry, whether it's a podcast or whether it's a webinar, whether it's whatever, without, shackling them where they can't talk. Look, you don't have to say, what this company is going to do Q4, Q1, or how many rigs it's going to pick up. But at the same time, if you hire the best and brightest, put them out there. That's your easiest, lowest hanging fruit marketing tool for our industry.
Capitalize on your investment, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look. I mean, they're not going to say anything detrimental. Just say, hey, look, don't talk about the business of the company, and go ahead. Be our advocate.
Yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. And you know what, gentlemen? We're at 40 minutes now. I don't want to overstay my welcome with everybody. Thank you very much for coming on and helping me close out the show and deliver that message that we need to be, getting out there. It's everybody's job to, represent the industry in a positive light. So thank you very much for helping me close it out. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Keith. And be sure, can I do a plug, Keith?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Both of you guys. Plug time.
Plug it
Go
up,
ahead.
baby. All right. So, hey, look, I've been doing a lot of live stuff lately with a lot of people in our industry, which has been fun. But we know LinkedIn and the algorithms and all that stuff. So a lot of times it's not communicated to everyone. I'm not saying you're going to get a lot of spam or anything like that, but go to connectioncrew.com, register, send a update live stuff I'm doing. For example, Thursday morning, 7:30, I'm going live with the Breakfast Room with Griffin Selby, the completions engineer over at Aventive. And then Thursday evening at 6 p.m., I'm going live with Sisterdale Distillery at the Petroleum Club of Houston. We're going to be talking about bourbon, having some steaks. So tune in for that. It's going to be a good time. And I'll be doing more live stuff. So check it out. It's a good time.
Love it. Lord, the floor is for you. What do you got to plug today? Company, what have you? Go ahead.
So with all the change and, everything's opening up. And luckily for Wyoming, I cover the U.S., luckily for Wyoming, it's been pretty open. We had to worry so much about being locked down. We can travel, stuff like that. As you can see, I'm usually traveling myself. I am making a move. I'm going to be the oil and gas guy for Ahern Rentals as of the 13th. So they reached out.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So I figured I'd give you some exciting news. You're the first to hear it.
Perfect. I really appreciate that.
Congratulations, man.
Few announcements on my shows. So that's great to hear. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Once again, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. And as always, that's how you troubleshoot.